When the week is slow and my channel's doing low, we know where to go. Steam Deck news. This is the Steam Deck. Now here we have an op-ed piece. I bought a cheap refurbished Steam Deck and it's convinced me to skip the Nintendo Switch 2. I'll need more than Mario and Metroid to tear me away. Though you can still get Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch 1. Just a reminder. So here he's talking about that he's glad to be skipping the Switch 2. Here he says, very briefly, a word on prices, because I forgot to identify the article. This is techradar.com, and this is James Pickard, which with a K. Yeah, like Pickett. Mr. Pickard, right? Jean-Luc Pickard. Very briefly, a word on prices, because while I feel the backlash is entirely valid, especially when it comes to the cost of Switch 2 games, it's been said more than enough times already, and it's not the main reason my interest in the new console has plummeted. It's more the fact that the Steam Deck is just too damn good. It's also helped that I paid £249, about $370 in Australia. It's $520 for it through the Certified Refurbished Steam Deck program. Oh, there's a Certified Refurbished Steam Deck program. We'll skip those bullet points up there. Hug my ROGLIX even closer. There's always a concern with buying secondhand that you'll end up with an inferior product. But as I found with my experience with the eBay Certified Refurbished program, eBay, steps have been taken to make these products as close to as good as new as possible for buyers. Now, I have seen refurbished or renewed on Amazon. Depending on where you go, I felt that the Game & Wario on the Wii U, the I don't know if it was renewed or what it was, but it was too expensive. That's why I downloaded it when the eShop was closing. But this was, and there's some other things out there. My refurbished Steam Deck arrived in a plain but functional box and included a surprisingly sturdy carry case. The handheld itself looked in top condition, free of any marks, scratches, nicks, or dents that might indicate it had been used or returned. Performance has been excellent too, well in line with what you expect from a new system. Okay, so more details here. Given I now do most of my gaming on the PS5, my PC is still rocking an ancient GTX 1060. I've been out of the loop with PC gaming for a good 5 years. I did miss the variety and inventiveness of many smaller games or indie darlings that never make their way to the major consoles, or don't do so for many years down the line. That was a huge draw of getting the Steam Deck to play these unique, interesting, and often fascinating games in reasonably good quality without needing to sit at the same desk I just worked for the last 8 hours. And he goes on, adding my GOG, and Epic Game Store library, mostly freebies I've claimed over the years, because, I can't read that. PS5, setting up remote play so I can stream the console to the deck, much like the PS Portal. That's been a huge bonus to chip away at monumental 100 plus hours. Okay, so you can actually play PS5 remote play with the deck. See, that's the thing. The Portal, okay, so much like the PS Portal, but the PS Portal is extremely limited. You see, that PS Portal, I talked about that damn thing. You're limited to just playing remote play. It's just a bare bones Wii U gamepad. But if you use the Steam Deck to replace the Portal to play remote play on the PS5, then you could play all sorts of games. And the Steam Deck functions on its own. That's the better value. It's more money, but it's better value. While that would have been possible with the PS Portal, instead of spending £200 on that dedicated piece of hardware, piece of shit, I can also access my entire PC games library for just £50 more. Yep. And I experienced all that in a few dozen hours I've had with the Steam Deck so far. I know there's more to look forward to when I dig even further to my back catalog to finally play some of those Steam sale impulse buys from years ago, or rediscover a classic I wouldn't mind returning to without a gaming PC. Switched off, I weighed all that up with what was shown in the Nintendo Switch 2 showcase. There's a new version of Mario Kart that looks perfectly fine, an unexpected but welcome surprise in DK Donkey Kong Bonanza, a surprise from software exclusives in the Dark Bloods, and the long-awaited release of Metroid Prime 4. Alongside that is a lot of excitement about an online chat feature that also works best with an extra camera accessory, a paid-for tech demo in the Nintendo... No, it's not paid for. I'm pretty sure it's not paid for. Everybody's been saying it's $10. I'm not sure if Nintendo confirmed that, but it's not paid for. It ain't paid for. No. Various upgrade fees to play last-gen games at a better performance level. You would think maybe they would be paid for with the bundle, but no such luck. Uh, while I miss not playing the latest Mario, Metroid, or Zelda, for sure, but it seems that many of these games will be playable on the old console too. Even if I have to fight with my OG Switch's pathetic battery life, and ultimately there's already so much waiting on the Steam Deck that I don't think I'll be missing out on too much. And I think that's a great thing. It's the perspectives, it's what's valuable. Now, here we got Steam Deck 2, everything we've heard about Valve's rumored handheld. And it might be a long time before we see the rumored Steam Deck 2. I actually think that's a good thing. Like the NES, it lasted 9 years. And I think the Atari 2600 lasted 15 years. And we move on to the next system every 5 years. But sometimes, does anybody ask themselves, did we really squeeze all the juice out of the fucking orange? Right? Did we play every possible game the Super Nintendo could have made, or the N64, or the Virtual Boy, or the Game Boy Color? And I want to see every possible game. I think it was a weird spectrum because you could look at Disney's Afternoon Collection on the Steam Deck, or some of the simpler games like Spelunky, and then you go to like Ratchet and Clank's Rift Apart. That game really, and even Miles Morales, that will really work your Steam Deck. You need like 20 minutes of wait time to power that game up. It's really difficult, like a 20-minute wait. When you purchase Duel Links, okay. So the original Steam, this is from, of course, is from Thomas Guide, by Tony Polanco, and he says, the original Steam Deck is one of the best gaming handheld consoles for playing the best PC games on the go. Due to the system's popularity, it's natural to assume we'll eventually get a follow-up. Though it has not been been announced, we've heard various reports and rumors over the years about the Steam Deck 2. Some reports come from leakers, some from statements directly from Valve. At the very least, the company is considering its plans for the next Steam Deck. However, the rival handhelds legendary Legion Go S or Legion Go 5 and the Steam OS, will there even be a Steam Deck 2? Should there be a Steam Deck 2? Here's everything we've heard. Release date. So what is the release date of this one? To indulge, or when it won't release. With our own Jason England interviewed Valve's SteamOS designer Pierre-Luc Griffay, I might be doing this wrong, during CES, the Consumer Electronics Show 2025. The latter said Valve wasn't thinking about new hardware until next year at least. That effectively squashes my hopes for a Steam Deck 2 dropping in 2025. I hope so, because maybe I'll get a better job. Maybe I'll get a new job or a better job by that time, and I can get it and not get scammed. Again, no phishing, please. Yeah, so I mean, a Steam Deck 2 in 2026, because that's like let me see, that's a 4-year wait. But I don't know, like it is a shorter amount of time than it was for the Switch, right? The Switch has had how many years now? Let's say we go up to 2020. That's like 9 years, right? Like as long as the NES. I'll go into more detail about this later, but one of the reasons Valve is taking its time, wants to offer significant performance boost over the original model. As such, changing the performance level is not something we're taking lightly, and only something we want to do is significant enough to increase to be had. I have a question now. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to require those Express SD cards. Has anybody used the Express micro SD cards in their Steam Deck? And has it made a lick of difference? Write those in the comments. I know you're all ignoring the Star Wars videos. I understand. People are reporting on Star Wars everywhere. I'm like at the bottom of the algorithm, but listen to what I'm saying with the Steam Deck. Have you put the Express micro SD cards in your Steam Deck to play your games? And if so, what is the result? Steam Deck 2's possible price. An entry level currently costs $399, $649. So those are the ones. It may cost more. Using the Nintendo Switch as an example, how a low-end Steam Deck 2 could possibly start at $499 or $100 more than its current gen. Going by that, a high-end Steam Deck 2 could range from $749 to $799. That's kind of what I paid for it. So, yeah, I don't remember how much I paid for that. I'm sure I said something in the videos, but yeah, it was like a $700 item. I think I paid $549 or so. So, this is going to be even more powerful. You're going to have like all kinds of weird shit. there was like a Gundam battle game that's like in 3D that would definitely like require a lot of speed. Imagine you have to get a new graphics card for a bunch of Gundam like mecha fighters, right? To kill each other in the canyons. Like how much speed would that require? Rumored display. Chinese was it Chinese forum thread on chip hell. The headline rumors that Steam Deck 2 will feature a 900p OLED screen added with a refresh rate of 90 hertz. Um, so it's a bump up to 900. 1600 by 900 would be a big boost. Okay. There's a lot of stuff here, a lot of technical shit. Both the original Steam Deck and OLED sport 1280 by 800 screens, putting them slightly above 720p due to the 1610 aspect ratio of both handheld gaming PCs. The rumored Steam Deck 2 screen specs are still below the Lenovo Legion Go with its 2560 by 1600 panel that sparks a 144 Hz refresh rate. However, Valve has never tried to outdo its competitors with brute power. Instead, the Steam Deck is popular because SteamOS is such a breeze to use, not to mention that its OLED screen on the higher end model is incredible. So it's not about it's about quality, not quantity, I guess. But going into detail about the potential specs, we can see here. At the moment, the processor is AMD Ryzen 22 chipset, Z2 chipset, and based on our conversation with Graphi, so there's not going to be an AMD Ryzen Z2 chipset in the Steam Deck 2. Okay, so I guess it's supposed to be about performance and how fast these games come out. So we have a kind of a slightly outdated system here, don't we? There's no Steam Deck 2 with Ryzen Z2, and we aren't thinking about new hardware until next year at least. Graphi commented when we interviewed him. We want to see bigger performance and power efficiency improvements within that 8 to 15 watt power envelope. The current Zen 2 based AMD chip inside the Steam Deck runs with this level of power, and this is something Valve doesn't want to stray from since it would sacrifice battery life. So it's like, we don't want to be looking at 20 to 30% improvement or anything like that because we don't think that's meaningful enough for developers and our users. So what can we expect? They didn't say, but considering the incremental gains from Z1 to Z2 during a span of 18 months, this is another sign that Steam Deck 2 won't be arriving anytime soon. Given how Steam Deck uses an AMD chip, the assumption was that the company would do so again with the Steam Deck 2. When asked if Valve would return to a custom AMD processor, Graphi was quick to say, not necessarily AMD. It's an interesting clarification that suggests that if the time comes for a next-gen handheld, Valve may look elsewhere, perhaps like Intel or Qualcomm. And will there be another Steam Deck? Will there even be another Steam Deck? The upcoming version of the Legion Go 5 will be the first machine that uses Valve's handheld OS. When asking about whether Valve is in talks with other companies beyond Lenovo, Graphi confirmed that these conversations are happening. So they're happening. The talks are happening. That he sees that it's a bi-directional relationship where both sides will have to put the work in to make it make sense. With these relationships, where would the Steam Deck 2 fit in a world popular with other handhelds running OS? Our hardware is in a certain segment, and there's other segments that prioritize other things that we don't. Graphi said, for example, some handhelds prioritize performance at the sacrifice of battery life, and other favors accessibility. We're happy to slot in alongside them and offer consumers more choice. Okay. So they're trying to balance everything. It's like if you have a storage unit and you can only put in for batteries, graphics, sound, performance, speed, but you only have so much space in that box. You can't go beyond it. You can't use the cloud to help, and you can't cheat, and you don't want to put bulky you don't want to put like a Sega 32X on top of it to give it more power, because then you just have a big bulky thing. I mean, remember the days when you would put all kinds of shit on your Game Boy or your Sega Genesis to give it more power, and that's kind of what they're avoiding too, I think. It doesn't stop anybody from doing that. I still think of that second screen that they have. Valve believes there will be a place for potential Steam Deck 2, even if it could offer something its competitors don't, such as better battery life or easier portability. But with multiple manufacturers using SteamOS on their handhelds, that will likely create devices that fill that sweet spot for performance and battery life that Valve takes up. I believe that Steam Deck 2 will do well even with SteamOS available. So we're just looking at beyond that. All we could do is speculate. So I'm confident they'll try to come up with something. I would love to see a smaller Steam Deck and see, like, the size, if it can fit just within your hand, right? Just within your hand, within your pocket. As Vinny Vinesauce would say, it's these things are so big now. Even the Switch 2 is big. It doesn't fit in your hand. Not much of a news story, but here we got Fair DM Scheduler version 4 running well on the Steam Deck, looks solid. So, Vertigo Ursuline of Igalia has been pursuing the Fair DRM schedule as a fair scheduling policy to help with multiple applications, processes, aiming to make use of the GPU concurrently. So here's a picture of it running on the Steam Deck. Let's take a look at the caption. As for the impact of the and how it's looking in actual use, the Igalia engineer describes the Fair DRM scheduler version 4 impact as, in my experiments, the Fair scheduler looks solid, and let's see how it fares well after wider testing. On the high level, the main advantages are scheduling quality and code simplification. No more multiple run queues. So I guess it's for programming, processing. So this is a little bit boring, but I want to kind of show this a little bit. So if anybody who knows all about this stuff, FIFO schedules better than FIFO. So I don't know what that is. So there's a little bit of confusing news. It's Humble Bundle time, and we got $194 worth of games down to $28. So all games in the collection are Steam Deck compatible, have good player ratings, and are worth $194, but can be scored for $28. So these games are Steam Deck compatible. Okay. So they're on sale, I believe. So they have bundles. The Humble Bundle, id and Friends Games Collection will expire. Okay, so this will expire on May 11th. So you want to kind of get these as quickly as you can. So for $28, what are you going to get? So here we got Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, worth $19. Wolfenstein: The New Order is worth $19.99. Very positive, very positive. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, which I do think I have on the Switch, worth $40. Doom plus Doom 2, worth $10. So those are the original Dooms. Doom 2016, worth $19.99. Overwhelmingly positive. Doom Eternal, which I have on my Nintendo Switch, worth $40. Doom 64, which is on Switch. So a lot of these games are on the Switch if you want to get it, but you can also get it on the Steam Deck. But this bundle is only for the Steam Deck. Besides these Doom and Wolfenstein games, this action game collection on Humble Bundle offers the following with a minimum payment of $28. Doom Eternal Year 1 Pass, worth $30, $29.99, has a very positive rating. 10% discount for Doom the Dark Ages. When is that game coming out? When is that game coming out? I still want to know. Dark Ages Premium Edition. When is Doom Dark Ages coming out? So that's something. So you will get this only on the Steam Deck, this $28 deal. So you might want to check that out. So there's Doom Bundle linked above. So go to humblebundle.com and you can click on the link in the previous. So here, if you click on this link, this is in, what is this? Notebook Check. So notebookcheck.net, you look for the news, and you can click on the minimum payment, and then you can figure out how to get your bundle. I have like half of these games already. A new way to play. Well, I'm not going there. Steam Deck Performance Guide and Best Settings, and since some of you may be playing Oblivion, I still have my old Oblivion 4. Maybe I'll dig it out before I end this video. Here we got Valve lists the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion as Steam Deck verified. And while that means the game will work, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll have the best performance. So here they're trying to figure out what is the best way to do it. So what is the best settings when you're playing the new the remastered Elder Scrolls 4 while we're waiting on Elder Scrolls 6? When you load up Oblivion, you can pull up the access menu by hitting the button, the ... button below the left trackpad. So there's a ... button. This one right here. So it's on the bottom right of the screen. So let's take a look at this again. So when you load up Oblivion, you can hit the ... button. And when you do, you scroll down to the little lightning bolt in a circle to adjust performance settings and change the following. Frame rate should be 30, refresh rate should be 60, TDP limit is 11 watts. Keep this at 15 watts if you want to absolutely maximize performance. So lowering the TDP, the thermal design power limit will help boost battery life. Okay. But if you're playing close to a wall charger, we recommend just keeping the system running at full power. You can also further improve battery life by lowering the display brightness and turning off Bluetooth or rumble. Those settings are found in the cog tab in the quick access menu. Now let me say something here. I bet you anything. Now you have to, Nintendo tells you to buy those express SD cards. I bet you anything Nintendo could have given players a way to adjust the settings, technical settings. I'm talking about brightness and contrast. I'm not talking about sound or whatever, or little minor settings that are cosmetic or merely cosmetic to save some battery life. I'm talking about these kinds of settings. They could have gotten more technical and given these kinds of settings. If they don't have frame rate limit, refresh rate, TDP limit in the Nintendo Switch 2, they're being shitty. Because I bet you with doing that, you won't need express micro SD cards. You could just buy regular micro SD cards and still get, still be able to do what you want. Nintendo likes to omit things sometimes. Purposefully, whether you can do it or not, they like to do that to you to make you spend more money. It's like, do you really need to buy an official Nintendo SanDisk micro SD card? Or could you buy a regular micro SD card for your Nintendo Switch 1 games? So I think this is very good. Remaster quality settings. So here, Oblivion Remastered is an incredible scalable game. So there are a lot of ways to scale down the image quality to have it running on the Steam Deck, just like with the portable system. They're giving up image quality for portability. So don't be afraid to trim things down if the game isn't running fast enough for you. These are the game's settings we're using. IGN is using full screen, 1280 by 800. VSync is off. Frame rate limit is 30. FOV first person is 75. FOV third person is 75. Motion blur is off. Screen space reflections is off. View distance quality is low. Effects and foliage quality is low. Shadow quality is at its lowest. Global illumination quality is low. Texture quality medium. Hair quality lowest. Cloth. So you got to turn off a lot of things. Frame generations off for FSR 3. When we first loaded the game on the Steam Deck, XCSS was the upscaler enabled by default, but FSR just looks better. You can turn off upscaling and the game doesn't run horribly, but the other forms of anti-aliasing make the game look much worse. Okay, so you have to kind of be careful with all that. If you have the Ally X or the Lenovo Legion Go, you can get away with much higher quality settings. So it is a trade, and so what do you feel? Do you really feel better playing with the Lenovo or the Ally X for these kinds of games, or would you rather stick to what you have for the Steam Deck? And here we have the original. This is my original Oblivion box. This is Xbox 360. This is something neat. Turn the Tide of Darkness. With the Empire ready to crumble, the gates of Oblivion open and demons march upon the land. Will this be on the Switch too, you wonder? You must find the lost heir to the throne and unravel the sinister plot that threatens to destroy all of Tamriel. So you get, with this one, you get your pocket guide to the Empire, a 112-page guide to every aspect of Tamriel. The making of the documentary, I remember that. Patrick Stewart does not make any interviews, though they just mention him. You get the Imperial Septim coin. So this was, I even have the add-ons, the content from the, I don't have Knights of the Nine. That's you could get it as a separate disc, Knights of the Nine. But I do have like that extra content that's on one of the demo discs. I don't know where that is right now. There you go, there's Oblivion. And that's it for Steam Deck news. Remember, if it's not Steam Deck, it's not a good Trek. And this